All right, welcome again to another live broadcast. Hope you guys having a wonderful day. Today is September the 10th, 2025. All right. Got a lot to talk about, but we're going to try to keep it under as smaller topics as possible. As few topics as possible. And we're going to give people just a few minutes to get on as we are teeing up here for our broadcast. And again, I hope you guys had a great day. And the temperature here in the beautiful state of Arizona is, well, it got higher than this. I think it was like 107. We're at 102 right now. So it's still pretty warm out, but it's a nice day otherwise. And we're going to be getting into this in a moment, okay? We got a person named Congo in the chat already asking questions. Chill. All right, we're going to get into it. And while we're waiting, like I said, give us about another minute, and then we're going to start, okay? But I did want to let you know on our, not there, right here on Samba Tree, we just released finally, we've been talking about it, but we finally released vitamin D3 K2. We have been talking about this for a long time, why it's so important for you to get your vitamin D. And many of y'all have been asking us for a long time when we're going to get vitamin D3 K2 in the house. And guess what? We got it. So just wanted to let you know about that. And also magnesium glycinate. It supports stress, relief nerves, sleep, heart, muscles, and metabolism. We'll get more into the details on that on another time, but I just wanted to let you know, we just added these to the stock over here on sambatree.com. So again, that is vitamin D3 K2. That's 10,000 IUs and magnesium glycinate, and supports stress, relieve nerves, sleep, heart muscles, and metabolism. So if you're not taking these things, I take these things every time when I go to bed. And if you haven't, especially if you're having problems sleeping, this is a great thing to take. Okay, so that's all found over on our website, which is sambatree.com. Again, another beautiful image that we have for this week. And this one was brought to us by our daughter. So anyway, just wanted to let you know about that. Let's go ahead and get into it. So again, thank you so much for tuning in. And I really appreciate all of you guys are here. And of course, by now you've heard about the news regarding conservative commentator Charlie Kirk, who was assassinated because everything we saw, it was assassinated. Basically, what I was doing, I was in the middle of working, and my daughter came in, and she, told me, "Hey, did you hear? No, first my son came in, and he told me, and I was like, "Oh man, I didn't know." And then my daughter came in; she's the one that had the phone, and then she showed me the video. I was like, "Oh man, this is Charlie Kirk." Now, out the gate, I never really listened to him. He's very conservative, and there's going to be some things I agree with him on. There's going to be some things I didn't agree with him on or whatever. But, all in all, he was a very, very popular person. He had his podcast and all that other stuff that he was doing. But like I said, for me, I can't really speak from like an insider or anything like that, or, talk about. There was one thing in particular that I'll touch on a little bit. I heard him say, and, that was kind of like, whatever. But other than that, I'm not, there's a lot of people on the conservative side I don't really follow. And I've kind of given up on the conservative side, in many regards, in that They're just too closely tied with Israel, and there are just certain things they're not going to stand up. Now, there are some who are starting to speak out in regards to Israel, but but when you start digging in a little bit more, a lot of times they will have some of these people still on their staff and all of that. So in some cases they're married to people that are that are of Israel and all of that. And so, there's layers to it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, I decided just to do a Build-A-Bear when it came to my own beliefs when it comes to politics, and as opposed to just saying, okay, I'm on the right or I'm on the left and all that stuff. So I don't do that. Even in this past election, I did vote, but I did a write-in. I didn't vote for either side because I knew how this thing was going to turn out, and just wanted to be honest with myself, and whatever other people chose to do, that's on them. But I have to write out my own standards, and these are the things I'm looking for. And if neither side comes close to that, then, oh, well, that's it. I'm not going to do the lesser of the two evil stuff. I've been stopped doing that a long time ago. But anyway, back to this whole thing with Charlie Kirk. So I saw it, and yeah, and all of his gruesomeness. I mean, he took a bullet right in the neck, and it just, it was just everything that you would imagine. And, I couldn't look at it again. After I saw it one time, I couldn't look at it again because she was going to show it to me again. I was like, no, don't play it. I said, because I still am dealing with 9/11, seeing people falling out of those buildings. I mean, I remember that thing just playing over and over again, just on repeat, and psychologically what that did to me and a lot of other people who was watching this in real time. I mean, that was horrible. And so I would encourage you to, if you are, because the videos are out there, I would advise probably not watching it, because it does something to your psyche. When you're watching stuff like that, it's not really good for you. It isn't. I mean, you just know that it happened, and that's it. But yeah, it's quite unfortunate. I think the thing that's really, sad to me, all in all, is that we are now at this point in this country where now it's, when you have a difference of opinion, it's okay to take people out. And this has been happening for a very long time. Certainly hasn't started with Charlie Kirk. We can go back, all throughout history. I mean, history is full of examples like this. You have a difference of opinion, piss off the wrong people, and, you're going to find yourself 6 feet under. I mean, this is just, it's something that's seen all over the world. It's not just here in America. It's literally seen all over the world. You piss off the wrong people, they will take you out. You appear that you're doing better for yourself, they will take you out. So it happens all the time. And so, but to see this played out, it doesn't make it any better, nor should we be any nonchalant about this at all. That's a very horrible thing. I can think of many people, politically that I absolutely despise. I can't stand them. I can't even look at them. I can't even want to hear their voice. I mean, they just get on my last nerve that I just can't stand. But that's an opinion. You understand? But I'm not up here advocating that something happens to them. No, I mean, that they get hit or struck by lightning or somebody shoots them in the head and all this stuff. No. I mean, I can easily walk away from a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? And that's just crazy. Now, as far as the title is concerned, yeah, we're going to get into this a little bit because I already knew this was going to happen. That you're going to have people who are going to find a way to wrench in some black angles into this thing. Like, that Charlie Kirk has said some things about unsavory things about black people, and now he's getting his comeuppance and, all of that stuff. My advice is shut up. I mean, just shut up, because this had literally nothing to do with that. Nothing at all. This is a much bigger thing. I mean, if you look at not the actual video with the bullet going in him, but someone was able to catch a video of someone on the roof taking off running. And so because when I saw it, I was like, because they had grabbed this old man, and I'm sitting here, I was like, okay, unless this man was at point blank range and has like excellent aim, that doesn't look like a regular handgun. That looks like something else. And so I look, so I'm looking at it, and I was like, I don't know forensic experience, anything like that, but I was looking at that. I was like, I don't know if this old man did that, but, you give it time, and then, stuff start coming out, and lo and behold, yeah, they actually have, unless that was AI, someone literally on the rooftop, the moment that those shots rang out, you literally see someone getting up and taking off and running, on the rooftop. Now, the last I heard was that they did get, the FBI does have someone in custody, but then I heard later on that they actually released them because I guess there wasn't enough evidence and all of that. But let me just say this, we've been around, all of us have been around for some time now. That wasn't just some accident. Okay. This was something that was very much coordinated. And yeah, there are other powers that shouldn't be, that do this kind of stuff all the time. And so, and they do that to incite, to change, or to direct public interest on various topics, be it gun control, be it certain policies, or whatever it may be. The powers that shouldn't be pull this stuff literally all the time. And this is something that we should all be very aware of it by now. So instead of you picking a side and trying to figure out, okay, it was the Republicans, it was the Democrats, or whatever, just know that what we're dealing with are powers that shouldn't be, that are controlling both of these sides. Okay. So this is something we should know right out the gate when it comes to that. Now, I've already seen on social media, different people already, getting online and cheering and saying, yeah, whatever, and making fun of this and making light of this and all that. And I particularly have seen quite a few black folks who are also doing that. And I'm going to go a little bit deeper with this because for me, it's not really Charlie Kirk. It's something much deeper than this. My warning, my advice, however you want to take it, is that stay out of this one, because we as black folks, we definitely have enough that we need to be focused on. And I'm going to talk about this young lady, because I posted about this on our community page earlier today. The young lady on the train in North Carolina. That's the story I'm working my way to right now, because there are some things that are going on right now that we definitely need to be focused on that. And let me just say this, and I'm already seeing the religious people already finding a way to wedge in there. The Most High, he don't play. You say something about his people, something gonna happen to you. I'm already seeing it. I'm not mentioning any names here, because people get caught up in that. You know how easy it would be to start me throwing out names right now. I would be very easy to do that right now. I'm not going to do it, and I'm not hiding them. They out here, and many of y'all already know some of the people I'm talking about already are getting on here, matching scriptures, matching prophecy, and all of this other stuff, and trying to tie some loop in there. You say something about that, you won't, all of that. They're already there. And I just want to say this: a lot of times, people that say that, they have nothing going on in their lives. They literally have nothing going on in their lives. They make their living by starting stuff. And when you're messy in your own life, everything you touch becomes messy. And trying to wedge in some type of black narrative in a situation like this is a very messy thing, and is very distracting. Someone brought up, I think Charlie Kirk a while back had made a statement about, when he gets on a plane, and he notices that the pilot crew is black. He said the first thing and I'm paraphrasing, he said the first thing I'm going to be wondering is, are they qualified? I mean, now this was said during the age of like when DEI was hot and all that stuff. But there was a specific story that took place. I can't recall right now, but he made that statement. Of course. I mean, is that something that's, hey, you're right, brother. I wouldn't say that, right? Okay. No, I mean, that's a very unsavory thing to say, but let's play this out a little bit more, shall we? Okay. For those of you that are highly defended at the fact that a white man would say something like that, please allow me to play that out just a little bit more. Okay. Now, many of you guys, you remember some years ago, there was a movie by a famous actor. He might have won an Oscar, not sure. He has a nickname. His name is Snoop Dogg. Yeah, that's what it is. Snoop Dogg. That's the name he goes by. That's the stage name. Well, anyway, he was in a movie called Soul Plane. You remember that? Now, Soul Plane, and I didn't see it. I would never see it. Please don't ever bring that movie. I don't even want to see clips of that movie. But this whole movie was about, it was a whole comedic, with an asterisk, view of black culture if it controlled an airplane. And it actually did pretty well. And from the pilots on down, the whole thing was everything you would expect. It was called Soul Plane. And of course, you had detractors. You had people that was like, oh, this is embarrassing. How dare you? Blah, blah, blah. But you also had a lot of people that didn't really have any problem with it. It was funny. And so I'm bringing this up because if you're going to get mad at him saying that, right, which we can all agree. I mean, it's kind of like, I don't know if I would have said that, like that or whatever. I mean, that's a little extreme, but on the other flip, we can, as black folk, we can make fun of this stuff all the time. So I'm saying this because a lot of times you'll hear people that will feign some type of offense, but then you turn around and it's like, okay, but y'all back here laughing about this stuff. You understand what I'm saying? So, it's, come on now. I mean, we're going to keep it a buck. Let's keep it all the way. You understand what I'm saying? So when I'm hearing people bringing that up as a way to wedge into, yeah, see, that's why he got shot, that kind of stuff. It's like, y'all, you weren't offended then and you're not offended now. So stop it. Okay. So this has absolutely nothing to do with that. Whatever this man, whoever did it, they're on their own on that. And I don't know if you heard this, the governor of the state of Utah, he reminded folks, he said, whoever this guy is, this is a state where we do public execution. So they're very serious about finding this dude or whoever this was that was behind this. But jumping on, and like I said, you can go on TikTok or some of these other platforms. I'm seeing white people, of course, but I'm also seeing black folks, people that are up here like rejoicing over this. And I'm like, this ain't really something to be, it's lunacy, but you're going to have to be very careful. And I'm saying this also for these religious people out here. Please listen to what I'm saying. You're going to have to be very careful in this age that we're in. You remember we talked about Palantir? Remember we talked about that program Palantir that basically is capturing information on everybody? This is an Israeli type operation, low key, that's going on. Palantir. Palantir is a program that they have been using where they're basically sucking up data on everybody. Okay, please listen to what I'm saying here. So when you have people who get on these platforms and are rejoicing over someone getting assassinated, or you're getting on these platforms and you're linking your religion to something like this, don't think for one moment they're not already got a flag on you just for that. And if you are someone that is in the comments, yeah, that's right, because see, the Most High, he ain't gonna play with that. You are linking yourself to people that are talking like that. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You don't want to have any digital footprints associating yourself with anybody that's finding some kind of way of justifying someone getting publicly executed. You do not want to do that. You do not want to do that. That is very bad advice if anybody's telling you that's okay, especially in this age right now. I don't care how you felt about the person. There are many people out here, like I said, I mean, and, you know, when you hear about certain ones that are dying and all that, I tread very carefully on certain topics like that. I don't, because I know everything I'm saying, everything I display to y'all on the screen or whatever, it's all being recorded, and it could be used against me. You understand what I'm saying? So I got to be extremely careful, and especially things I say to you, I got to be very careful. Because some people will take things and then they'll run with it. Next thing you know, it's like, whoa, how am I getting pulled into this? You understand? So you want to be very careful, because a lot of these people are either very depressed, they're bitter, they're angry, they have nothing going on in their lives, and they will find they just deal in mess. That's what they move in. They move in messiness. And so you want to be very careful in this day and age, because there are a lot of people that are doing this right now, right, as I'm speaking to you. All right. Especially with this whole Charlie Kirk thing. You want to just leave it alone. Leave it alone. We have absolutely nothing at all to do with this. So you need to just pull all the way back on that. Okay. And just keep it moving. Now, what I do want to get into, you know, because like I said, that's a thing that just happened. Right. And so there's still going to be ongoing information coming out. And, you know, will we get to the bottom of it and the truth? Probably not, like anything else. But, you know, the other thing I want to bring out too, before we switch on to this other topic, is this. Because when you cheer for stuff like that, guess what? It could very well happen to you, and it can very well happen to other people as well. Let me give you an example of someone that I greatly do not like. Okay. I just don't like, because I see right through them. And that's Jasmine Crockett. When I listen to her, I cannot stand any word coming out of her mouth. And it's beyond that, because I see why she's where she is. She is literally there to be a paid distraction. You cannot tell me that this woman is a true representative of all black women. There is nowhere in the world this woman is the best and the brightest when it comes to black women and representing black women. There is no way. I don't care if the black women on the left or right. There's no way. Because I'm listening to her and I'm like, she is literally putting on a whole act. Like literally. All that, yeah, because you know what I'm saying. You know, when you shoot, I'm going to take the, you know, all of that. And it's like, the only black women that I see, I mean, I'm talking about real respectful black women that I see acting like that are on TikTok. I'm talking about younger people that, you know, just got some further development to go along, you know, that they got to encounter. That's the only time I see black women, really real black women, carrying on like that. She is not a representative of all black women. She is not. And like I said, regardless of political, you know, I don't care if she's a Republican. I don't care if she's a Democrat. It doesn't matter to me. But I see why she's where she is. She is there to be a clown caricature, or if you say it that way, of black women. That's why she's there. That's exactly why she's there. And if you think for one moment that Washington, the whole Washington system is shaking in its boots every time she opens her mouth, you better think again. They literally just got rid of her district. So she's a non-existent in that regard. But they put certain people in place. So someone like that, for example, where you see why where they are, and they're just an open clown. It's like the same thing with that AOC woman that represents her district in New York City. This woman, please, same thing. Same thing. She is not a representative of that district. This is someone that they put in place to be a clown, to reach the TikTok people. She is not someone to be taken seriously at all. But they put these people up. So people like that, for example, I just have an issue with, right? Yeah, and it's, you know, there was some other ones going back like Harry Reid. I mean, there was a whole bunch of other ones too that I just Harry Reid is gone now anyway, but there's other people too. Um, but yeah, John McCain. Man, there's a whole bunch of them. I can go down the list of different ones I just despise. Now, I may disagree with them politically, but I'm never going to get up here if something tragic happened to them, they got shot or whatever. It's unfortunate. You know what I mean? And, I wouldn't be cheering for anything like that. And like I said, again, if you cheering for that, just know the clap back goes both ways. It does. So you want to be very careful on what you're even cheering about, because this probably could become more and more of a norm as time goes on. And the whole point of all of this is to agitate the general population. That's what this is all about. They are trying to agitate people, and they're trying to agitate the right people. You understand? And so you have to sit back when you see stuff like this, sit back, pause for a moment, and ask yourself, okay, who benefits off of this? Who benefits off of this? Who will benefit off of this stuff here? If someone gets shot, or rather, if in this case here, who actually benefits off of something like this? That's the approach that we have to take. And I'm telling you right now, the people who benefit are the powers that should not be in this country, and they are wanting to continue to agitate folks. And so you have to make sure that you're stepping back and not allowing yourself to thrust yourself in these conversations, especially when we don't have all the information, which we don't. I certainly don't. But I just wanted to issue out a clear warning to many of our people, black folks who do want to try to find some kind of way, because the typical path is, okay, yeah, he said this about black people, he said that about black people or whatever. Okay, fine. Okay, but does this have anything to do with it? No. So we don't have anything to do with this conference, with that particular issue. Leave it alone. Okay. Now, what I do want to get into very quickly is something that I posted on our community page earlier today, and that was this whole situation in North Carolina. Let me post this up here, and let me get this up on the screen here. And yeah, here we go right here. So yeah, so this was actually a much longer post, but this situation in North Carolina, by now you heard about the situation. It was it's a black guy who on a train, his name is DeCarlos Brown, who basically was riding the same train as this young woman. I think she was from Ukraine or something. She happened to be over here in the United States, in North Carolina, in Charlotte area. And don't need to play the video because I'm sure most of you have already seen it by now. And she's just sitting there minding her business. Well, anyway, the guy, he gets up out of just nowhere. I mean, he just flips, and he just proceeds to stab this woman and walks off the train, and that's it. Threw the knife somewhere, and there was the other people that was sitting on the train, they were just sitting there watching. Didn't do a doggone thing to try to save her, nothing. They just stood there and watched her. And so I'm looking at this, sorry. I'm watching all of this, and so the story, if you continue to follow the storyline, the attention turned towards the judge who let this guy out, DeCarlos Brown, in the first place. So let me read to you very quickly what I read to you, or what I wrote earlier today. And like I said, this post was much, much longer. I had to cut it down. But I said on yesterday's Somber Tree podcast, I hope you guys get a chance to watch that. I'll put a link in the what you call it here on the community page. I said we talked about how the amygdala, the brain's emotional center, can make details fuzzy. I say when it's in overdrive, we only remember feeling, not facts. Basically running in hashtag mode. That's exactly how mainstream media frames the brutal murder of Irana Zarutska. I hope I'm saying her name right. On a Charlotte train by DeCarlos Brown. They push hashtags to steer you towards their conclusions. I say, yes, Brown should have never been free. Judge Teresa Stokes gave him yet another chance, even though he had been proven dangerous. And now a woman is dead. When I learned Stokes didn't even have a law degree, I asked, is this normal? As it turns out, in 32 states, some lower level judges, magistrates, judges, and justices of the peace don't need law degrees. Did you know this? I didn't know this. I didn't know this at all. I assumed that every judge that's out there actually had some form of law training, like at least a law degree. But come to find out, no, that's not the case at all. So this woman, because this guy had been caught and released, I think they counted 11 times. And so I said, turns out in 32 states, some lower level judges, and I read that already, historically, this goes all the way back to the 1800s. Did you know this? I didn't know that either. So this isn't something brand new. So for those that are trying to wrap this in, this is some DEI thing. No, this doesn't apply here. This is American as apple pie. They, in many districts across this country, it has been a practice in certain districts where the judges don't even have a lawyer degree. I've never heard anybody bring that up until now. And then it says here, today it's usually limited to small claims, traffic, or bail hearings. In big cities, most judges are lawyers. And I've looked at that. I was doing my investigation on that. I spent a good part of the day investigating this. Exceptions include North Carolina magistrates and Pennsylvania magisterial district judges, who often handle early bail decisions. Bottom line, the idea that standards are being lowered just to fill benches isn't accurate. However, can we say the same thing when it comes to bar exams? Non-lawyer judges have been part of the system for centuries. Well, for a long time, I'll just put it that way. The bigger question is why some keep giving multiple chances to proven threats and who really benefits from that. Ain't that something? So yeah, like I said, in this post was much, much longer. I had to cut it down because I just had a ton of information, and I actually had court case after court case after court case after court case listed where other judges as well. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I noticed how people were starting to focus on the judge who happens to be a black woman and trying to say, okay, this is another DEI case where they making these black women. And no, this is not that. This does not fall into that. You have many judges, as I just described to you, in this country that don't even have law degrees. Now, why is that important? That should be, as black people, we should be very alarmed at that, because this is something, when it comes to justice, this is something that we have been protesting about, yelling and screaming about for a very long time, haven't we? So when you're finding out that some of these judges don't even have a law degree, how do you think you're going to get justice from that? How are you going to get justice from that if the person that's trying your case don't even have a law degree? Well, it gets deeper than that, okay? So I wrote in the article there, in the post there, is that, because what I did is I actually looked at, okay, how did this apply to areas that have a high percentage of black people, all right? That's because I looked into that. That's what I was looking into, and I'm gonna get to that in a moment. But I'll just tell you this much. In cities, most cities, this is what another thing I was able to find. In most cities across the United States, it is a requirement for judges to have at least have passed the bar, to be lawyers. In most cities, it is. When you start getting outside of the cities, that's when the variables start coming into play. With the exception of, I want to say Atlanta area, New Orleans was another place, Alabama, and then I think it was Texas too, where sometimes it can be a split. The judges the presiding judges that make the decisions and all of that, they usually is a requirement for them. But judges that set the bail, okay, the bail amount is going to be this or the bail amount is going to be that. In many cases, what I was able to find, they don't require a law degree. They don't require a law degree on that. And so I was very alarmed at that. That's something I didn't know. I don't really go into those areas like that, but that was something I did not know. And but now we do know. At least now I do know. Maybe I'm just catching up. Maybe you knew. But yeah, this is really a very interesting issue. And so what I did was I said, okay, let's take this the next step further. I said, and of course I went to ChatGPT on this. What I said was, okay, let's take this case here. Let's take this particular case here, and where you have a repeat offender that keeps getting, caught. He commits a crime. He gets caught. He goes in front of the judge. The judge is like, oh, okay. Well, you know what? You promised to be a good boy this time. Yes, judge. Okay, go on back out there. And it's just a repeat over and over again. You back again? Man, I'm tired of seeing you. Okay, are you promised, over and over again, right? So I wanted to know, how often do we see this happening in communities where we have a high percentage of Black residents? And I found it came up quite a bit. And I have all the numbers here. Maybe, again, I'll maybe do a separate post and I'll show you all the data and stuff that I was able to pull up for you. And, I cross-reference it the whole nine. And yeah, this happens quite a bit. And so, and in many of these cases, yes, the judges are in fact Black folks. And so I'm bringing this to your attention because if we really want justice, we really got to look at that. You understand? We got to look at that. Are these judges even qualified? Are they qualified to try a lot of these cases? Or are we just content with the fact that they got Black faces? You understand? And so that's what led me down this whole rabbit trail, with this whole case here. So, but what's happening is this, because now, like I said, everybody's like focused on this judge and how dare her or whatever, but they need to do their homework on this, because it ain't just her. You got judges all across the country who also are like this. And they not just Black judges. You got white judges. You got all colored judges who are also in these positions. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate, but we need to raise the bar on this. We need to raise the standard, raise the alarm on this, right? And so I'm bringing this up because what's also attached to this is now we're getting back to this crime that this guy did to this woman. Let me give you a story, because these stories have been popping up for years. But when I look at our so-called Black media or new Black media, it doesn't get mentioned. It doesn't get mentioned. And I'm on my last point here. Let me see. This was Queen Creek. This just happened. Let's see. Now there's a town out here. Here it is. There is a town out here in Arizona. It's called Queen Creek. And nice town. It's mostly white, as you would expect out here in Arizona. Nice town. And but it's, like I said, it's mostly white people, and then you got Hispanics, and then you got a slight splattering of Black folks or whatever. Queen Creek is like East Valley. It's, you gonna go, it's out of Phoenix. It's still considered the Phoenix area. You know what I mean? It's almost like Atlanta. You got Atlanta, and then you got Powder Springs, but Powder Springs is still considered the Atlanta area, So Queen Creek is kind of like that, right? And so, but out in this area, it ain't really known for Black folks. It's only when you start getting into Tempe and Mesa and all that, that's when you really start seeing some Black faces, right? So Queen Creek is out there, right? And I'm on my timeline and Queen Creek pops up, and they talked about this story about some girls' home. It's a group home for girls, and they said that unfortunately one of the girls was assaulted, right? And I was like, of course I said, oh, that's unfortunate. I said, usually nothing goes on in Queen Creek. I said, how are they popping up on the map now? I was like, dang, is it getting that bad out here? And so I did a search, and as soon as I saw this, I just started shaking my head. Another black person. I was like, God dog it. I said, bro, what was you even thinking? I mean, ain't hardly any black folk out there, bro. You got one out there. It ain't just one, but you know what I'm saying. And it's just like, gosh. It's like, my goodness. I mean, I hate it for the girl, of course, too. But when you read the story, there's some shady stuff going on even on that side too. I mean, when you read this story, but yeah, there's a little more to the story because it sounds like there was some things she was doing too. But again, you got to read the article. But it was a story like this that happened. And this just came out yesterday, I think. Day before. Sorry, it was like day before. Down in Tucson. It was a little further south of Tucson, I think. It's some remote town here in Arizona. Some remote town. I've never even heard of it. And I was like, and then they talked about it was a white couple that was sitting at a bus station. Just wait. They had just buried their child sitting at a bus station. And black person, I mean black American, okay, came up out of the blue, stabbed the man, killed him. There's a reason why I'm bringing these up, okay? There's a reason why I'm bringing these stories up, okay? I'm not just bringing these up just to bring them up, okay? I'm bringing these up for a reason. And here's another, and so now the feds are getting involved. Pam Bondi, she just came out and said, forget that. We ain't trusting the locals. Now we're going to get involved in this. Now we getting involved in this. Again, follow me because there's a reason why I'm bringing this up. Here's another story that just popped up here. Tortured for 5 hours. A career criminal invades Queens homes, kills, burns parents of fire department in New York paramedic. Am I buying into the narrative and saying that all black people do this? Of course not. That is not true at all. But there's a reason why I am saying this. There's another story. I'm trying to find it here. I don't even, I don't even want to show that. I literally don't even want to show it. But this just also happened. It was a white baby. A white baby. The baby had to be about, just judging by the child, had to be 1 or 2 years old. Small child. Had black eyes. Two black eyes, because the caretaker just completely went off on this child. Beat up. This is a white child. Now, for those of you who may be new to the channel, let me just help you out here before your mind goes anywhere else. I'm not just saying these things because it's happening to white people, because I say these same things when we do this to each other a lot, and people don't like when I do that. So I'm looking at both sides. Okay. So you had that story, and then there's many other stories as well. I'm bringing this up to you because what we are seeing right now, and it gets into a much deeper conversation. That's why I'm going to split the other things I want to get into. I'm just going to split them into different videos. Is that when a community cannot take care of its own, what you're going to find is that somebody else is going to eventually step into that role and take care of it. There is a video. Let me see if I can find this. I saw this and I literally could not believe what I was seeing. And I was like, how is this even on social media? I don't even understand this. If I don't see it, it's right here. Hold on. Here it is. Here it is. I want to show you something. You remember, okay, go back to that video that I did where we talked about how defining culture. First we're going to define what culture actually is. We had to establish a baseline. And then from there, we said, okay, what are the main pillars of a culture? And then from there, we matched it to other cultures and see, okay, they have this pillar, they have, okay, all these cultures. And then we got to Black culture and we saw that Black culture has some of those things, but there's other things that aren't there. You have to go back and watch it. If you didn't see it, I would encourage you to watch it. But one of the things that I mentioned in there when it comes to our culture, Black culture, is that because we do not have this any kind of solid system of elders, if you will, or caretakers, right? You got some people that you can go to, but all in all, we don't. And so what you'll find is that when you look at the people, because we broke this up by demographic, Black folks lead the way when it comes to social media usage here in America. We lead the way in that. What that tells us, what we can do with that data is that because we don't have the full structure that is needed for a culture, we oftentimes will turn to social media to vent out that stuff that should be going offline to well-established people in your family that are elders, that are people that are real caretakers and all of that. But because we don't have that on a large scale, what's happened is that our culture relies a lot more on social media to put our stuff out there. I'm not saying other cultures don't put their business out there. They do. I'm just saying that we do it at a far greater level, right? And so when it comes to things like mental health, you start seeing a lot more of us illustrating or demonstrating these mental health things that should be being communicated to someone that is licensed. Do you understand what I'm saying? Not on TikTok. If you're having a mental breakdown, the last place you need to be is on TikTok. See, it's normalized in our culture that you do that. Let me give you an example of just how crazy this is. And I'm saying this especially to you people who have medical backgrounds. I know y'all gonna have something to say on this. Now, I don't know who the heck this is, but they do need to be reported. But I want to show this to you. This is, let me put this right here. This individual, I think they work in one of those units that deal with people that have medical issues, right? Mental issues. Well, they are using their platform to highlight Black folks who are having mental breakdowns. Now, let me show you this right here. This is one here. It's right here. Let me play this for you. So you see what I'm saying? And so you have people out here that's you putting this. Why would you make that public? Why would you put that out there like that? Why would you put this individual out there like that? What that shows is there's no gatekeepers there to say, no, you're going too far, bro. You're going too far. There's nobody in the culture that's saying, okay, you having some mental issues right now. I'm talking about the person holding the camera. I ain't talking about the person that we saw in the bed. I'm talking about the person that's holding the camera. There's nobody there to tell this person, hey, hold on for a second. Hold up there. You don't put this man out here like this. Don't put that stuff out there like that. And so when you don't have that, this is what happens. Everything goes out. Everything comes public. I will put it, do I even want to show this other one? I'm just giving you examples of stuff. And so I'm showing you this stuff because when we, as a so-called community, if we do not have gatekeepers, guess what's going to happen? There's going to be some other gatekeepers that's going to rise up and they are going to do the job, period. That's what's going to happen. That's why I'm showing this to you. This other person here, let me see. Did I download it or I'm trying to find it. Hold on. I may have downloaded this. This other one is even worse. Oh yeah, this is it. Let me do I even want to play? Yeah, let me get this up on the screen. I don't know if I'll play the whole thing, but I want you to hear this person. I want you to hear what they're saying out of their mouths. And I took some time to go through their platform, and they actually acknowledged that, yeah, they do have some issues. All right, so let me put this out here real quick.
I want people to really ask themselves, what disturbs your spirit so much about the idea of a child also being a sexual being? What disturbs your spirit so much about the idea of a child watching a consensual act? What meaning are you attaching to that act? What meaning are you attaching to it? And where does that meaning that you have attached to it come from? Why is it not okay for people, and I'm specifically talking about youth, to engage in a sexual act or to view?
I don't even want to, no. You ain't getting me in trouble. But I see this every day. I see this often. Now, in our next video, the next broadcast, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the connection between literacy rates and our communicating. Now, I'm 54 years old. All right, knocking on the door of 55. And I find myself having a more difficult time in understanding what some people, when I'm listening to some of this generation that's coming up, really understanding what they're saying. And it's not because they're talking low. That may have something to do with it, but it's just a lot of run-on stuff. And it's like, wait a minute, and I'm finding myself having to ask them, can you repeat that? Because I missed it. And I'm finding that I'm doing that a whole lot. It ain't just black people, it's white people too. That's just what I'm seeing happening, right? And so this is another one of my little projects that I've been working on here, is looking at the correlation between literacy and the way people are communicating. Now, here's one of the things that I found for you. Now, this should be very alarming. I went to the federal website for this, okay? This wasn't just me, doing a quick search or whatever. I had to go to the federal database. I had to pull this stuff up, verify it, and all this other stuff. So I'm not just going by an article here. What they have found, the latest data shows this. Now, I hope you're sitting down. The latest data shows this. When it comes to black students at the 8th grade level, I hope you're ready for this. At the 8th grade level, hold it right there, because I want you to hold it, because you know what got me to this point? I start seeing all these clips of, I don't know this guy, never listened to his music or whatever, NBA YoungBoy. I guess that's what his name is. You notice they always name these artists young boy, some young, little, small. It's always a childish kind of name, right? And so I saw clips of the concert, and I mean, you got young men and women. They were just going wild. It was just, and they were repeating stuff. And I was like, what are they saying? I can't make out what they're saying. And then so I said, well, let me hear him talk. And I was listening to him. He was like, yeah, man, because I be going, and I was like, what is he saying? Like, I'm literally trying to understand what he's saying. All right. So anyway, let's get back to my point here. That's what got me to this point. What the federal stats are currently showing is that this is just black students, boys and girls, at the 8th grade level, around 20% of black students at an 8th grade level can read and write proficiently. 20%. 20% in this country. These are the latest stats. And like I said, when I do my next video, I'll have them all out for you. Okay. Again, this isn't just pulling from a blog post I had to go to the actual federal database and all of that and get all of this, right? And making sure that everything was, what I'm saying was legit. 20% of black boys and girls at the 8th grade level can read and write proficiently. What does that say for the other 80%? Now, reading and writing, as we talked about extensively on this platform, it's very important, not just for the sake of reading and writing, but it has a lot of impact on how you communicate. It has a lot of impact on how you process things in your mind. And when you're talking only 20% of the generation that's coming up can read or write, what do you expect is going to happen? What do you expect is going to happen? What do you expect that the turnout is going to be on that? It's very low. It's very low. So I would, you can go to the, it's called the nationsreportcard.gov, nationsreportcard.gov, and you can pull out the data yourself. And like I said, what I'm doing is I'm going to compile it and put it all together and all that stuff so that, people can see for themselves or whatever. But you can look it up. I'm not paywalling this. I'm not hiding anything. It's there. You're not going to see something that says 22%. You're not going to see that. But it's just when you put the data together, that's when you start seeing the percentages and all of that. But yeah, you go to nationsreportcard.gov and it will show you. And another thing that was very surprising and what I found is that when it comes to reading and writing proficiency, black folks, because what I had to do is I had to itemize out black Americans versus black people who are categorized as black folks, but they're English learners, right? So let's say, for example, you get a bunch of Haitians that come over that speak French. Their numbers, if you just lump them all with black Americans, it's going to make our numbers look lower, right? So you got to make sure, no, I'm not talking about English learners. I'm focused on black people who are native speakers of English speakers, right? So that's what I'm in the middle of doing right now, just separating that out so that it's very clear on exactly who we're talking about. But when you look at, you got Asian is top, followed by white. What was it now? It was Asian in terms of reading and writing proficiency. Asian, white, Hispanic, and black. And when I say Hispanic, I'm talking Spanish people who are Hispanic, come out of Hispanic families, and they are English speakers. So even the ones that are English speakers, they are it's not by much, but it's enough. They're a much higher in reading and writing proficiency than black Americans. I'm not making any of this up. There's no conspiracy or anything. And we're seeing this play out. And how this plays out is how we communicate with one another. You know, when you see people that are short tempered and all this other stuff, that all plays into reading and writing. And that's why we're doing our series on Sabbatry on our Sabbatry YouTube page. We're explaining all these different parts of the brain and what happens when we're not fully engaging it. That's why we're taking the time to go through that so that people can understand how all these things are related. When you're writing with your left hand, when you're writing with your right hand or whatever, how all of this stuff ties together and how we can optimize these things so that we can be the better for it. You know what I'm saying? So we talk about all of these things over on Sabbatry. You can check that out. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention here because these are the things that we need to focus on. And when we're not focusing on these things, what happens is the problem gets worse, 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 and worse until finally it's unsustainable. And now you got to have other people come in and they're going to have to draw the line and say, enough is enough. Case in point, in what we're seeing happening right now in Washington, D.C., Trump got to send the troops in because the people there and the black politicians that they voted for in all of these years, they refuse to do what they were supposed to do, and that is to have a safe community, to create a safe environment and a safe community. They refuse to do it, so guess what happens? All right, well, the Fed's going to have to come in, they're going to handle it. And guess what? I just read something, I just saw today that, you remember the Governor Westmore, Governor Westmore of Maryland, he was saying all that tough talk, there ain't nobody coming in, they ain't coming up in here. Now all of a sudden he says, we'll welcome the president to send in his federal troops in there. We welcome that in our state. Now all of a sudden the court, it done changed now. Because they realize at the end of the day, hey, we're going to need some help. You understand? So what's the moral of all of this? Number one, to recap what this broadcast was about. Number one, this whole issue with Charlie Kirk, again, I hate hearing that. That's quite unfortunate. But stop listening to these clown behind folks out here that want to try to wedge in some kind of narrative, black narrative to that. We got enough issues that we need to be focused on. Did Charlie Kirk say some things that were kind of when it come to black folks? Yes, he did. But does that relate to, should that be attached to this is why he got killed? No, that should have nothing at all to do with it. Let that story be, because we know that that story in of itself, there's a lot bigger things attached to it. And trust me, it's going to impact everybody at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So that's number one, the whole Charlie Kirk thing. The bigger issue, then what we talked about is this whole thing that took place on that train in Charlotte. We talked about that. And, we talked about the attention that's been placed on the judge who has repeatedly let this man out over and over again. But we focused on, it's not really the judge per se, but this judge is a part of a whole big thing that has been happening in this country since the 1800s, where part of our judiciary system has numbers of judges who aren't even like her, that don't even have law degrees. We should be very alarmed at that, right? So we talked about that and got into that, and we can go even deeper with that in another broadcast. And then finally, we talked about the importance of us. What's happening now is that a lot of people now are starting to pay very close attention to a lot of these crimes, especially these crimes that are where white people are being the ones that are getting impacted by black folks, right? And instead of picking sides on these issues, we need to sit back and say, okay, we need to get on this stuff, because that ain't right. Because oh, now they're attacking white people, we got to do something. No, we need to have that same tenacity when our own babies are being assaulted. We need to have that same tenacity, even on a greater level, when our elders are too afraid to go outside because some out there wants to it's having target practice. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so if we don't get serious with that, it's going to spill over in other communities. And quite naturally, the other communities are going to say, okay, enough is enough. Then we're going to handle it. You know what I mean? So that's the whole point that was the whole thing that we covered. In case you missed some things in this broadcast, that was kind of the brief summary that we talked about. So I would advise you to look at. Yeah, someone said, yeah, I gotta listen to the replay. Missed the segment about judges without degrees. Yeah, you need to listen to that one. And also, like I said, I have a small write up on our community page, where I'm talking about it. But I'm thinking maybe either tonight or tomorrow, I'll put up some more information on that for you to give you examples of other places where this has happened, because it's not just in Charlotte. This happens all over, and in many of those cases, unfortunately, Black folks are suffering because of that. These repeat offenders that are going out back into the streets over and over again, a lot of times it's judges like this that are sending them back out. But then we got to go even deeper and look at the the bar exams. Are some of these states lowering bar exams, making it easier for people who clearly aren't qualified to pass the bar? We have to take an honest look at that. I already know the answer to that in some of these cases, but I want to take a look at that and present to you the data itself so you can look at it and see for yourself. You know what I mean? Because these are things that we should be very concerned about. If we're really concerned about justice, then we need to be concerned about things like this, because Black, white, Chinese, it don't matter to me. If a judge is involved in dealing with my affairs, I want to make sure that that judge knows what the heck they're talking about. You understand what I'm saying? And this should be of great importance to us. Okay, so that's it. That's all I have for you guys, unless you got any questions for me at all. But that's it. This wasn't meant to be a long broadcast, but I did want to touch on those points there. And that's it. And of course, we'll continue to keep our eye on this Charlie Kirk thing, which is going to be a quite interesting next few days, I think. So lay low, you guys. Just keep your eyes open. And I'm telling you, there's going to be more and more information coming out in the days and weeks ahead as it pertains to this. So remember, always ask who benefits from this. That's the question to ask. All right. And for those out there, and I gave a warning earlier to people who do want to try to blend in some kind of race narrative with this, just shut up. Just shut up. Just shut up. It's not even worth it. Just leave it alone. Okay. That's it. That's all I have for you. Other than that, hey, you guys take care. Remember, check out our website, sombertree.com. We just released 2 new products, and that is our K2D3 and magnesium. You want to make sure you check that out. Just go to take a quick shot over at sombertree.com and check it out. Okay. And we got some other products I'm working on right now. I got one I'm really excited about. So stay tuned for that, and I'll let you know very soon. Okay. You guys take care, and I'll see you again in the next broadcast. Take care, and I'll see you next time.